afternoon, YouTube. Welcome back to Fat Cat Collections, where I review all sorts of different products, from watches to cologne to leather jackets to men's grooming products and to audio equipment. And today we're going to be talking about this really cool addition to my wine rack setup. If you've been following my Instagram account or my YouTube channel, you've been seeing a few products from this setup, and I have to give credit where it's due. Aima is the brand that kind of turned me on to, or kind of opened up the floodgates for home audio again. I've always had stereos in my house. A little bit about my background: I have banging stereos in 4 vehicles that I own. I'm really into sound, and I think that listening to music is really an emotional journey for me. Whether I'm working out or working on YouTube, or we're working, whatever the case may be, music is always on. And I definitely think that we live in a kind of a cool world right now where you can get amazing audio and you can get some amazing sound, whether you have a small apartment or a big house. There's so many products out there that you can really get amazing sound quality for a fraction of what it cost back in the day. And so this is one of these brands. This is Neohipo, and they were nice enough to reach out to Fat Cat Collections and look at a few of my other hybrid tube amps. Not going to get too involved in what my whole story about. I know I can ramble on a lot, but kind of what sparked me getting back into, or busting out, some of these speakers I had in storage, right? So long story short, what I have here is basically a couple old school, awesome Acoustic Research Edge speakers paired with a hybrid tube amp by Dayton. And then I have an Aima A3001 subwoofer amplifier with a couple repurposed old soundbar subs I just had laying around. There are 2 8s I have kind of tucked underneath the wine rack. You really can't see that. For the low end, I am going to build a new box with a much better quality sub. These subs are limited. They don't really get down deep, but they still sound pretty decent. Then, of course, again, this is the HTA20BT by Dayton. This is just a this is sent to me by Dartmouth brand. This is like a tube clock. It kind of mimics what tubes look like. I think it goes really well with the tube setup I have. Remember, this Dayton amp is a hybrid tube amp. So what they use a tube preamp with a solid state monitor amp, and to kind of duplicate the warmth you get from really expensive amps by brands like McIntosh. There's a whole bunch of brands. I'm not saying the sound quality is on par, because I've never heard McIntosh amps, but listening to guys on YouTube like Cheap Audio Man, I think his name is, he's compared a lot of these really affordable $150 amps with $1,000 amps. And I can tell you, I have a $1,000 Kenwood amplifier across the room on a different system here, and these hybrid tube amps are the reason why I cracked out these older speakers I have that they weren't being utilized anymore, and it made these speakers sound so good I had to find a spot for them. So this is basically how this setup came to pass, right? I picked up a Audio-Technica record player for that vinyl. I picked up a very inexpensive, kind of matches with the brown and black, just CD player in the event I want to kind of test the way CDs sound versus a Google Chromecast is what my primary source is for music on the system. And then I have a preamp which has 2 inputs, and this is for the record player and of course the Google Chromecast. So I'm running basically dual. I'm using a tube preamp with a hybrid tube amplifier to really kind of enhance that warmth you get out of kind of tubes, right? And they look cool as hell. I mean, this thing looks very vintage. It looks awesome. Now, let's talk about the product today. We're gonna be looking at this. Again, is the Neohipo brand, and what this is a VU meter. And if you looked at, I'm trying to get one of these companies, Aima, to design a hybrid tube amp around my ideas. Whether they'll do it or not I'm not sure, but what's really cool about the McIntosh amps, what's not cool is the price, right? But what's really cool is they always use VU meters. And this is just an iconic look. It's an old school look, and it pairs really well with anything tube, right? And you can see as I'm talking, maybe you can see these needles are bouncing around. So again, Neohipo reached out. They saw some of my other videos, and they were nice to send me one of these, and I'm so happy they did, because this has been on my radar for a while. And for my purposes, this is really just for show. You can utilize this. We're going to talk about the features this has, and what it basically is a switch. So this allows you to run 2 amplifiers and 2 pairs of speakers. So you can have speaker set 1, speaker set 2, or A and B, In this case, it's amplifier A or B and then speaker 1 or 2. And this allows you to adjust the sensitivity of the VU meters, and there's a needle on these. I'll get a zoomed in shot in a second. There's 2 meters, and as I'm talking, these needles are bouncing around. So that's the option for you to use it just as a standalone device, strictly for cool factor. When you turn on the music, these needles are bouncing around. It has a really cool glow, and it just really adds a kind of a visual aesthetic to your system. It can be used with any system at all, basically any. You don't even really need to have, I mean, of course it's for audio, right? But you don't necessarily even have to have music playing. The microphone's picking up my voice and it's causing those needles to bounce around. You can turn that feature off, of course. If you do want, this is great for guys who are kind of like me, really into audio testing. You can hook up 2 amplifiers to this and kind of select on the same pair of speakers which amplifier sounds better or different if you want to use it for testing purposes, or if you just want to, maybe you want dual setups. Like I have a separate IEMA hybrid tube amp next to it that I'm not using at the moment, so I might hook it up to there and just kind of do some side-by-side comparisons. But then you could also have a second set of speakers. This would be fantastic, again, for a guy who, my setup's a little different. This is just a small wine rack setup, or like bookshelf setup, but you basically you hook up 2 speakers to it and 2 amps, and however you want to utilize that is totally up to you. But for my purposes, the main reason I wanted it was for the VU meters. This is fantastic. You can adjust the sensitivity of the microphone. So sometimes if I turn this all the way up, the needles are going to be bouncing up rather high. So like I'm going to stop talking, and it kind of stops at 7. So if I turn it all the way down, it'll take it all the way down to the 0 mark, right? And you can see I have to, as I'm clapping, it's not really even picking up. So this adjusts the sensitivity, and I believe it adjusts the sensitivity if you have speakers hooked up to it or an amplifier. It's got to pick up the signal. Again, I'm using it just for mic sensitivity because I really only wanted it for the aesthetics, right? And then, of course, you have, I believe the other sensitivity has, there's a sensitivity and swing range. And the swing range, I think, determines how high it goes on the meter, basically. Let me just double check that. Yeah, so I think it's every noise is going to affect the needle more severely, if that makes any kind of sense, right? And then sensitivity, again, that's the one next to it. That adjusts how sensitive it is to us talking. And this also might just be, and keep in mind, I don't have the amplifier hooked up to it. I'm just using the microphone. This probably is only active when you actually have something hooked up to it. But again, in my case, not using it for that. I'm strictly using it for microphone and the aesthetic. So what's cool about this is you can just press the middle button here, and you can change the color. You can turn it off. You can turn it, was like, how many, what we got, 4 shades of, or 4 levels of luminescence. I like to keep it on the max, which is the brightest. And if we press and hold, you'll see it can cycle through colors. So you can do kind of like the RGB, which is pretty cool. I'm more of just a standard color guy here. Press it again. And if we turn it clockwise or counterclockwise, we can adjust the color. So we can cycle through here. We got like a pink. This is more of like your old school kind of amber. More of like a white, orange, red. You can see this. But I really like to keep it right on this color here. Yeah, which kind of mimics the McIntosh amps. McIntosh is kind of known for like their kind of aqua blue on their VU meters. Hence the reason why I got some smart lights here with that aqua blue. I think it just screams McIntosh, right? And I think it's a really great way to dress up your system. Now, if you want to add something like this to your system, there are several different companies out there who are making stuff like this. Generally, you're going to pay about $130 to $150. I've seen some smaller versions that don't have the dual meters, but honestly, this one is really fully featured. Some of the other ones I've seen don't have the ability to adjust the color. They don't have the ability to make a lot of the adjustments this one has. It's a fantastic device, and I think that spending $140, I think it is today, that might seem like a lot of money for folks who maybe you're not too concerned with the aesthetic, but if you are a guy who really appreciates kind of the vintage styling of old school electronics, I think this is just a no-brainer. What's really interesting is that stuff like this is really popular, and when you look at brands like Lincoln, who just did one of their a couple of their vehicles have collaborated with McIntosh for their system, their Smart Dash actually has 2 faux UV meters on it. And so this is just something, I don't know, for me personally, I absolutely love the way it looks. It's something I want to have on each one of my systems in each room. We'll see if I can collaborate with more companies or maybe this company again. But overall, absolutely love the device. Let me get a couple close-ups here so just kind of can see what it looks like. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here so you can get a better idea of what we're talking about here. Yeah, so pretty cool. So hopefully you can see in the video, as I'm talking, these VU meters, these needles are bouncing around. And again, just for purpose of the video, I have it underneath one of these hybrid tube amplifiers by Dayton. I think it matches up really well. What else? That's really about it. I mean, it does come with a remote control. Oh yeah, let me mention this as well. It does come with a remote control. I have not figured out how to turn the device off without the remote control. So you would think they would have put a power button on here, but I'm just not seeing one. I've tried pressing and holding buttons. I've tried turning them all the way down. The center button, again, when you press and hold that, all that does is change the colors. So on the remote control, and I'm glad it's a regular remote control, not one of those standard, like those credit card remotes you get that are pretty inexpensive. You have power, you can change the light color, you turn the mic on or off. Basically everything you can do with the buttons on the device except turn it on and off, which is crazy to me. But at least get the remote for that, you turn it off, and it still looks pretty cool. You can still see the VU meters. It's nice that it's actual, it's analog, right? It's an actual mechanical device as opposed to like a couple LCD screens or something. So I love it. I think it's awesome, and I think that this is definitely something for anybody who wants to, again, dress up their system. You can see some of the components I have here. You got the phono preamp, tube preamp, the Dayton audio amp, and I think it looks just absolutely awesome on there. You know, a lot of these hybrid tube amps, you know, they look good, but you know, they're pretty small and they don't really, I don't know, they don't really have like a good rack presence. They look cool, don't get me wrong, but they're smaller, you know, and there's different versions out there you can buy. But I think this VU meter really adds to the setup, and I think it looks cool as hell. So that's about it. You know, not going to make the video too much longer. If you guys do have any kind of questions about my setup or how I did some of this stuff, by all means drop me a comment or drop me an email. I do want to thank this company, Neohipo, for their generosity in sending this to Fat Cat Collections for collaboration. This will do well, because I know there's a lot of folks in the audio community who want to have that McIntosh look without that McIntosh price. And to be honest with you, check out guys like Cheap Audio Man. I mean, he reviews a lot of speakers at many different price points. And this is something I've been saying for many, many years. We are not living in the 80s anymore. You know, there was a time back in the late 70s, 80s, where if you had products coming out of China, they were inferior. If you didn't have audio equipment from Japan, you know, it was considered junk. And now things have evolved so much. Back in my original car audio days, when I first started getting involved into it, I spent $800 on like a Fosgate Punch 800. And is it a great amp? Absolutely. Still runs after all these years. I mean, it's a beautiful amp, but $800. Whereas now you can spend a fraction of that and get equal performance. Because remember, the technology used back then, you know, cheaper brands, that became cheaper and cheaper to manufacture and produce. So less expensive entry-level brands like Pyle and Jensen, and just kind of throwing a few brands out there, is using technology that was used back, that was considered state-of-the-art back then. And so nowadays, again, I've always been a huge advocate for affordable products. And when it comes down to it, a lot of this stuff is coming out of the same factory. Now, I'm not saying that my setup is as good as like a McIntosh setup, but in all honesty, you have to start to nitpick products to really start to see, to really hear a difference. I think and again, for you audio guys who know a lot more than I do, at the end of the day, I get what I enjoy, and I put together what I can afford, or in this case, what is sent to me, and I'm very happy with the way it sounds. And ultimately, you're the person who's going to determine what's going to make you happy or how far down the rabbit hole you want to go. You can spend thousands and thousands of dollars on audio equipment, and a lot of that is going to have to do with your noise floor. And when you turn this on, you know, do you hear any hissing when you're not playing anything? When you turn up the volume, is there a hissing? Is there any kind of noise? And I think noise is something that in the audio community, in the real audiophile world, you're looking to repress, suppress basically. So I don't know. For my purposes, you know, listen to music. Listen, you know, it's you can get a lot of bang for your buck is my point. And if you guys have any questions for my setup, by all means, let me know. All in all, when you look at a setup like this, we're looking at about, I'm just going to estimate here, about 130 for the tube amp, about another, for you guys, about another $100. I got mine for the tube preamp. I bought that for $65 on eBay. Found it open box, works great. So we're looking at about $200 for those two. You know, another, you know, $350 including the VU meter. Throw on the sub amp. You know, another, you know, say $60. So for the Audio-Technica record player, so I mean for really under about $600. Remember, these speakers were pretty expensive, but we're going back 20 years here. I got these at cost back in the day when my ex-girlfriends worked at an audio video store and was able to get cost on stuff. So, you know, ultimately though, my point is that you can get a lot of bang for your buck even if you just get a simple set of bookshelf speakers that are $150 and a hybrid tube amp and a Google Chromecast or CD player or record player, whatever you want to use as your source. These amps do have Bluetooth as well, so you don't even need any of that if you don't want to use that. But again, if you guys have any questions about my specific setup, I don't want to ramble on too much in the video. But by all means, drop me a comment, drop me an email. I'm here to help you folks. And I want to thank again. This has been a great addition to my collection. I've been wanting something like this for a while. I just couldn't rationalize spending $140 at this time just for bouncing lights. But I would have eventually. It's just too many other things I want to buy, like Python jackets and stuff like that. So just gotta keep that in mind. What else? Subscribe to the channel, and you guys have a fantastic day and take care.